Hi, welcome to another broadcast of the GARF Network. I'm Eric.
And I'm Matt.
And later on tonight, we're going to be bringing on Mr. Ben Scrivens, President of Fright-Rags. But before we get into that, we need to cover a little company business. What do you say, Matt?
Yeah, let's do it. You know, just want to remind you folks, the brand new George A. Romero Foundation.org website has been updated. And coming up next week, it's a new quarter, which means a new newsletter. So a lot of news on the foundation, Outpost 5 for some of those folks, bits and pieces. Please sign up for the newsletter, georgearomerofoundation.org.
And also, I want to remind everybody to check out our Patreon page. We have several levels of subscriptions from $3 on up to $50. We've got all sorts of content planned, and we've got some stuff on the way. We can't really get into it now, but we've got a lot of good stuff planned. I mean, and we're getting ready to drop it. But please get over there and check it out when you get a chance. And the link is in the banner.
Yes, thank you for all your support and help. The Patreon helps us keep the lights on and keeps us bringing you content and things that you want, and especially when we start gathering together.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Matt?
Oh, there I am.
Oh, there you go. Oh,
sorry.
I didn't know if I'd lost you or you had lost me.
Live TV, folks. Sorry about that. Not sure what happened.
All right. Well, but yeah, the paid. I think we'd wrapped up that point. So I guess without any further ado, or actually, let's go ahead real quick. While we got a second, let's talk about our April lineup of shows. We're going to be. Right now, we've got 3 shows booked, and I think we've got some more things kind of in the bank that we're working on. But all throughout the month of April, we're going to be celebrating the 40th anniversary of Knight Riders.
Man, talk about just a great movie, near and dear to George's heart, and a lot of fans revere Knight Riders, and rightfully so. It's a very personal film for George, stacked with a lot of the Romero family, folks who have gone on to do tons of stuff that you're like, hey, I know that guy. And then you're like, hey, I know that guy from elsewhere. And, you know, I am so excited to sit down with everybody from Knight Riders. I think it's finally time that film really got some of the love outside of the Romero family, and really showcasing, you know, one of the.
Oh, no. All right. Well, real quick, on the 10th, we've got Christine Romero, Mr. Warner Shook, and Randy Kovitz. On the 17th, we're going to have Tom Savini, Mr. Tasso Stavrakis, and Marty Schiff. And then to close it out, on the 24th, we have Ed Harris and Donald Rubenstein. And, man, I really can't wait for that one, Matt.
Oh my God, that's going to be great. Sitting down with Ed Harris and Donald Rubenstein, you know, old friend of the show. He was our first guest back on the WGON days. So it's going to be nice to do a deep dive, and they've had a friendship for 40 years.
That's right.
And to hear Ed go long form into Knight Riders, I think this is something that I can't express how excited I am, because that is, is it the 24th yet?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, definitely somebody me and Matt have wanted to talk to for 20 plus years. Yeah, as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
So it's you know, if you told me 20 years ago I'd be talking to Ed Harris, I'd be like, get out of town. So
yeah, right.
So can't wait for that one. Well, I guess let's go ahead and get into the main portion of the show, and let's bring on Mr. Ben Scrivens of Fright-Rags. How you doing, sir?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great.
And I think hopefully everybody's heard about the figures that are coming out in just a few. Actually, the pre-order are not coming out soon. The pre-order is starting on the 31st, and we're going to get into the fine details of that later. But before we get into that, we wanted to kind of talk about how Fright-Rags got started. It's started back in 2003, right?
Yeah. So basically, you know, I had sort of a long story short, when I graduated high school in mid-90s, I went to college for a year and I dropped out. And then I went to work for a couple years, and then I realized I should probably go back to school. So when I should have been graduating in college, I went back to college to be a graphic designer for 4 years. So I had ended up graduating from college in 2002 and got a job, moved in with my then girlfriend, now wife, and ended up getting another job soon after because the job I was in I didn't like too much. But anyway, I started work finally as a graphic designer, and I was working for a laptop bag company, designing the website, taking product photography. It was like literally I was the third person hired, so I was so close to the company in the sense that I got to see how it worked. It was a small business, that type of thing. But after a year of working there, I was bored. I liked my job, but I just had a lot of creative steam to let off. And again, we were in an apartment. We didn't have kids yet, didn't have a house, didn't have all that stuff. So I spent a lot of my free time online on message boards because it's pre-social media, pre-Facebook, all that stuff. And I'd spend a lot of time on horror message boards because I'm a horror fan. I've been a horror fan since I was a kid. So anyway, a lot of these boards, there were people that I just gravitated toward that made stuff like Freddy gloves or hockey masks or Michael Myers masks, because Halloween's my favorite movie of all time. So I was always looking who could make the best fan-made Myers mask, and found a guy who I'm sure Justin Mabry, who went on to start Trick or Treat Studios with Chris Zeffro. But back then he ran Night Owl forums, and he made fan-made Michael Myers masks and tons of other stuff. And I just loved the people on that board, and I would frequent it a lot. But I just wanted to do something. Like, I just wanted to be creative. But I couldn't make masks. I mean, I'd done it in high school, like in my art class and stuff. But I was in an apartment. What am I going to do? Start a studio? Like, what? So I'm like, what could I do? And I was just coming up with ideas as a graphic designer, just sort of putting some stuff together. And I thought, I don't really have any horror T-shirts. I like T-shirts. I like weird T-shirts. Like, I was always particular as a kid. Like, we'd go on family vacations and stuff, and I would always like, nah, that one's not the right one. Like, that one's the right one. And for some reason in my head, I couldn't articulate it, but I had a style that I liked. But I didn't have any horror shirts. And the only company around at the time, if you just Googled horror shirts or whatever, was Rotten Cotton and by John Lewis. And he had been doing it since the 90s and stuff. And I liked his stuff. I had no problem with it, but it wasn't really, that wasn't what I would wear. Like, that wasn't my thing. I just had other ideas in my head. So anyway, I was coming up with ideas, and I came up with this idea because what would Jesus do was so big back then. Would be what would Jason do, but the J would be a hockey mask. And I thought that was, in my mind, that was like humorous and clever and just made me laugh. And I looked it up, and no one that I could find had ever done it. Like, I could not find any post online anywhere about this. It's like, okay. And then I'm like, well, what if I took just that hockey mask and made it big on a shirt? Like, just a hockey mask, nothing else. That would be kind of cool. And what if I did a generic Myers and said Trick or Treat underneath it? It's really, 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 really plain stuff. But back then I was just like, that would be cool. So Justin was so nice to say, hey, show that stuff on my message board, see if other people are interested. And I did. I mocked it up on T-shirts digitally and showed people. And people were like, I would love to have this. I would buy this. And it was at that moment that I realized I could potentially sell these to people that want them. And I'd never really received that feedback from other people. I mean, other than like in design school when you're sitting there 3-hour critiques and they're ripping your stuff, a new one. But like, the product that I could make that someone wants, and so basically it was like Labor Day weekend 2003. I was like, all right, I got to figure this out if I'm going to do it. So I had to hand code a website, which I had done only like 1 or 2 times before in like college, figure out how to link PayPal to it. It wasn't like it is today where you can pretty much plug and play. Like HTML, the buttons had to be in the same spot each place, and all that stuff. And I would go back and forth between pages, and the button would move like a pixel. I'd have to nudge it back and link PayPal to it. And then I was like, what am I going to call it? And I was thinking of all these words of horror and apparel, and I'm like, Fright-Rags. I'm like, that works. Why not? And I bought the domain, and I came up with a little logo, and and the biggest thing was I was sitting at my computer at work, and I was going to order these shirts, and I was only going to order 60 of them, 20 of each design of the 3 designs, and it was going to cost me like $600. And I'm like, I don't have $600. I'm going to put it on my credit card. And here we are getting ready for a wedding, and my wife, fiance at the time, was like, "What the hell are you doing? Like, what is possessing you to spend money we don't have? What are you doing?" And I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know what I'm doing, to be honest with you. I'm just going to buy these and see what happens. So it was that September, I put up the website, advertised it on Night Owl, and started selling a few shirts. And I just had fun with it. It was just like, oh, what else could I do? And then I found a printer in town that was literally a mile away from my work that did it from his garage. So I started hiring him to do all of my work. And I would go over there after work and pick up shirts and go home and fold them and ship them out. And basically, that's what started it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was one. I was curious if there was like a particular hole in the market, and so that was pretty much the hole, was that it just stuff wasn't fitting your current style of stuff that you would actually wear.
Yeah, and this was, weirdly enough, the more I look back on it, it is sort of early days of the internet, and obviously there were websites you could buy online, and it was right post that big bubble burst of, pets.com and all that stuff. But it was still kind of early on for these niche brands, So yeah, in a sense, there was kind of, I couldn't have articulated it back then because I wasn't thinking in those terms, but yeah, you're right. It was sort of, for me, there was a hole in the market that I thought I see something that I could do differently, not necessarily better. In my mind, it was better because that's what I wanted, but that doesn't mean what else was out there was worse. It was just, I wanted something different,
Yeah, shirts were pretty limited back in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was a black shirt with some silk screening. It was 1 or 2 colors, or maybe just the poster design. You could tell it was like square, and it looked like it was just taken from the computer to the printer. Horror shirts used to be so hard to get, and when you found that one, sometimes you had to buy 2, because if I wore it out, I was gonna never see that vendor again.
Yeah,
because shows were not prevalent, and like you said, the internet, you had to search for t-shirts, and like you said, Rotten Cotton was the first one I thought of back in the day. Used to buy a ton of shirts from him, but if that vendor didn't come to a show and they had one you wanted and you missed out 6 months ago, you were SOL, man.
Yeah.
And that was, I remember the early 2000s starting to discover people making stuff and putting them online, and it's almost like you said, it was kind of like self-serving, like, I want shirts like this, so I'm just going to make them.
Yeah.
And give them to others. And that's, it's a great service that a lot of folks like you guys started way back in the early days of the internet.
Yeah. And it was just fun to do. Like it's funny because I remember it was a couple months after I started. My sister introduced me to her accountant at the time, and she's like, you should probably talk to him and make sure things are set up or whatever. Cause I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And he started talking to me. He's like, well, when you start getting a profit and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what do you mean profit? Like, oh, he's like, when you start making money. I'm like, I'm not even thinking I'm going to make money on this. Like, I didn't even know what I was thinking, because it was just like, I just want to make this and sell it. Like, it was literally as simple as that, and I just wasn't thinking in those terms yet. Cause literally, I didn't quit my full-time job until 2008. So that's 5 years. And I basically, pretty much every penny went right back into the business. It wasn't like I was paying myself a salary at the time or anything like that. It was literally just a hobby job for me.
Were you still holding a 9-to-5 then, or that whole time then?
Yeah. So
from
2003 to 2008, I was still working at that same company. And, basically what had happened was, in 2005, I started selling some shirts into Hot Topic, which was actually a whole other thing. And that's a whole mess when you're doing it from your, at the time, house, and you've got 2,000 shirts to ship within 3 weeks, and they all have to be folded and size stripped and put in certain boxes. And you're like, oh my God. But I realized myself, basically I'm like, because I was getting to the point at my job where I was like, I kind of want to get another job. I want to do something different. I mean, Fright-Rags was not in any position that I could have ever have drawn any sort of money from it as a, the salary I was getting at my job. So, and we were going to have a child, you know what I mean? So it was like, this was a lot of stuff. And I said, if I woke up tomorrow and I could get another design job somewhere else in town or do Fright-Rags for the same amount of money, just take, basically level the playing field, what would I really want? And I was like, Fright-Rags all day. So I said, you know what? Then I'm not going to look for another job. I'm going to stick it out here and just put all my time and energy, every last second I have into this, until I can do it. And it really, it took a few more years, but I was able to do it finally.
Soaked up all your free time, I'm guessing, every last bit of it.
Yeah, I mean, it was, late nights writing emails or doing stuff, and then it was early mornings packing orders, and then it was, going on my lunch break to the post office to fill out international forms by hand and staying and waiting in line to ship those. And my boss was super great about everything, and he would let me bring in my orders because I didn't want to leave them outside of my house to be picked up by the post office, by the postal guy. So he would allow me to bring in orders. So he would come in the morning and see, like, maybe it was 2 bags, and maybe it was like 6 grocery bags full of just orders. He's like, you had a pretty big night last night, huh? I'm like, yeah, I did, and he could see it. And he was extremely supportive of me. I even used our warehouse to ship stuff out for Hot Topic because we had freight trucks coming, and he's like, oh, what are we getting, or what's coming? And I'm like, oh, that's my truck coming. That was only for a short period of time, but he was like, And so when I called him into my office to tell him I was leaving, he's like, so when you leave? And I'm like, already, huh? He's like,
wow,
it was coming, but we're still good friends. He's a great guy.
Yeah, people see the slick website. They don't. That's the non-sexy side that you just described. The late nights, the trips to the post office.
Well,
so.
I get a lot of people asking me, how to do it or how to start or whatever. And I said, listen, it takes 5 years to become an overnight success. I think Seth Godin's the one that said that. And it's true. I mean, it's the time, the years that nobody knew who Fright-Rags was or what Fright-Rags was, or you had to, constantly get it out there, especially pre-social media, before there was hashtags and all this other stuff. You're pounding the pavement. I mean, you literally are like, virtually going from town to town with your horse and opening up, hey, that's yours. That's what it felt like. But you do it because you love it, Yeah.
Was there a particular design or moment that was your catalyst to say, I'm going full time? Like, can you pinpoint that moment?
So the full time thing, what happened was this. It was summer of 2007. I'll never forget this. We were visiting friends, and my friend said, hey, don't you think you can do this full time now? And it's not that I'd never thought about it, but I didn't know what that meant, meaning I didn't know how to figure that out, right? I didn't know the method, if you will, to like, how do I know I can go full time, right? So I said, this is what I'm going to do. Because back then, and Matt, you can appreciate this, online checking accounts were 5% interest, which is like, you get 0.05 right now. But like, It was literal 5% interest. So there was a bank that I had no other affiliation with. It wasn't my personal bank and anything like that. But I signed up for an account, and I said, this is what I'm going to do. Because again, we were expecting our daughter at the time, and I was like, what? Actually, no, she was born at the time. She was born in 2006. So this was like, I already had a kid, right? And my wife works full time and everything. So I'm like, I'm going to take, so I had a separate account for Fright-Rags, money, expenses and stuff like that the money would come into, and I would pay for shirts out of and stuff. So I had a business account. So I said, I'm going to have my paycheck, whatever I make that each week, taken from Fright-Rags money and going into that HSBC, it was HSBC at the time, account. And just every week, it's going to happen automatically. I don't want to think about that account. I don't want to spend money out of that account. Put my head down, keep working. And I said it, and I forgot about it. Not really forgot about it, but I didn't touch it. And that was, I think, August of 2007. And I just kept going and going and going. And then come around January, I realized, I'm like, my business hasn't suffered. I haven't run out of money to buy shirts or do what I need to do for the business. I've got 6 months of income built up, getting 5% interest. and my lifestyle hasn't changed. Nothing's changed. And then I saw an opening at a design firm here for part-time designer. It was like an entry-level job that she told me, she's like, you're probably overqualified for this. I'm like, good, because I just want something that's like 15, 20 hours a week to do. Like, it's cool. I'll do whatever you want me to do. I felt like I needed something, so I left my full-time job, went there part-time, but that was starting in March of 2008. I only lasted to August because I was too busy. Like, I could not. I would get to my job and start checking on the BlackBerry at the time, emails for Fright-Rags. And I'm like, what am I doing? And then, again, she was wonderful, and she was very supportive of me, my boss there. And I said, I think I need to do this, like, all in. And that was scary. I was worried the day I woke up, my first Monday of not having a job. like for some reason I was going to just sit around in my pajamas all day eating cereal, right? But that never happened. Like, I was legitimately worried that for some reason, because I didn't have a job, that I would suddenly not do anything. But it was like totally the opposite. Like, you become so focused, Yeah.
So the what would Jason do? It was a success. What was your next move from there?
Well, I mean, what happened was all very incremental. What would Jason do was a success early on. And actually, funny about that design, it's like the design that started everything. And then that was the first design I ever got a cease and desist for, because it used the trademarked Jason hockey mask.
It's a question I had for later.
So basically, if you want me to, I can get into it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Basically, I used the hockey mask, the Jason hockey. It was actually a Part 6 mask that I used. And I got a cease and desist. This was in late 2005. And I was like, they said, we own the trademarks of this and the other thing. And I said, okay, well, I'm just going to take all the trademarks out. So I'm just going to draw, change the shape, change the eyes, change everything. It basically looked like an alien, but everyone knew what it was. You could tell what it was. It's like those dollar store hockey masks you can get in September, October. They're like that weird. And even everyone on Night Owl was like, oh, I hate that. That sucks. I'm like, no, I get it, but I'm going to try to sell this anyway. And it did great. And Hot Topic ended up ordering like 8,000 of them, like 2 days later. It's like, so that surged it again in popularity, and then it died out. And then in 2009, 2010, Judah Friedlander wore it on 30 Rock. I met him at a convention, and we hung out for a bit, and he's like, I want to wear some of those shirts. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And then it was like a year later, I get a email from NBC, and I had to sign all these documents and stuff. And next thing you know, he wore it, and orders just went like, it was crazy. So
it's amazing.
These lives over the years, it's been fun.
Wow, that's awesome.
So was that the first time someone, like, you kind of started to get it, that people were really digging your designs, that you were getting more exposure?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's all sort of, it happens so like slowly, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, it just happens so gradual. Like, I would just start to see, oh, like if I go to a convention, to set up, and I'd be like, oh, there's a bunch of people wearing our stuff. Like, the first show I did, and I started this in 2003. It was 2005. I did Monster Mania in August, and I saw all these people wearing my shirts, and I was like, that's weird. Like, because I'm again, at the time, it was literally just me. I'm packing every single shirt and sending everything out. And yeah, I'm seeing these things go out, but you don't, again, it was before social media, before people are posting pictures of themselves most of the time. So to see it, I was like, oh, wow, that's crazy, and I don't know. It was just so incremental, and to the point where, there'd be little things where I did a video once, and I posted it I sent it to my newsletter, and I gave like a coupon code. It was like the first time I'd really done a lot of that, and all these orders came in. I was like, that's crazy. Oh my God. Like, I didn't expect it. So even today, like, we had literally our biggest release day ever last week. And we were all, as a team, sitting here on Slack going, what just happened? Holy cow. It's still almost I don't want to say it's unexpected. It's hard to choose the words, but it's like, it still surprises me every day sometimes, where I'm like, oh my God, like, this is crazy. I mean, I'm entirely grateful for it, obviously, but it's just like, it never ceases to surprise me.
When did you start getting into licensed products, and can you remember your first license?
So oddly enough, I started out right out of the gate because my first license was within 2 months of me starting Fright-Rags, and that was Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3. And I had so Michael, I love those films. I love.
Oh, they're great.
2 and 3 are like 2 is one of my. I mean that's the poster, right?
Yeah.
3 are like, especially 2 is like one of my favorite slashers of all time. Like I love that movie so much. So I forgot how I was always trying to get licensing, not even knowing what that meant. Really, I mean, knew what it meant, but I didn't know what it entailed at the time. And we didn't really start getting actual, like, what we would consider like real titles for, I mean, and of course Sleepaway Camp 2 is a real title, but I mean like Evil Dead 2 and Halloween and all these other things until like 2012, 2011, around there. But Sleepaway Camp 2, I befriended Michael Simpson online, and we'd talked, and I remember him faxing the contract over to my work at the time, and he was great to work with, and unfortunately he passed away several years ago. And shortly before he passed, he actually, we had a nice email exchange, and he said, I want you to have the license for however long you ever want it, and here's the person to talk to or whatever. And he's like, just keep doing it. I'm like, okay, thank you. So that's actually been the longest license we ever had, but it wasn't until like 2010, 2011 that I really started to be able to do it and contact these companies and studios and start understanding what that meant. And that was huge learning curve for sure.
So was it a lot of emails or just picking up the phone like, hi, I'm Ben from Fright-Rags, I want a license for t-shirts? Or
it was a lot of emails, and then they would want to call, and it's funny because back then I would get so nervous to talk to these studios and like talk to these people, and when they're, licensing can get really expensive, but it's also just a lot of, and these contracts can be 20, 30 pages, and there's a lot of stuff. And if you don't really get it, you can miss some things, and not that they're going to screw you, but like you gotta look through things and understand it. And with each contract, it got more complicated. Like, oh, what does that mean? And then you have to Google that term or ask somebody. And it was constantly trying to figure out what these things meant, so I understood what I was getting into. But it's been great. We've really been fortunate to work with a lot of great studios and people and titles. So, can't complain.
And then, can you remember the first Romero product you licensed?
Yeah, so Romero, what was great about that is I met his manager at the time, Chris, back at one of my first shows, and he's like, listen, I manage George, I manage a few other people, I'd like to work with you on some shirts. And the first shirt for his crew I had done for Charles Cyphers, which was awesome because, again, Halloween being my favorite film. But of course, Romero, he's like, can you do some shirts for George? And I was like, yeah. So worked with this artist named Monk One, who's an amazing artist. He did this shirt called Godfather of Living Dead, and it was in the same logo font. And he's like a zombie, and he's like reaching out, and George sold that at shows for several years. He would order from us, and there was a couple other ones we did. There was a signature shirt. There was a George Romero for President. I think that was for 2008. And we did a few shirts basically directly. We did Fast Zombies Suck. All the shirts that we didn't sell on our site, but they were directly exclusively for George. So that was really the first time that I got to work with him directly. And it was totally a dream come true. It was amazing.
It's incredible. We've got a lot of questions about the Dawn licensing. Here's one from it says, what was the process like for licensing Dawn of the Dead merchandise through New Amsterdam Entertainment?
So and to update everybody who is asking about Dawn, we did have the Dawn of the Dead license. We are in negotiations to renew, and we have been for over a year now. It's just been taking a while, and I think I don't really know the full details, but I think there's been some internal structure changes on their end. It's not listen, I'm ready. I'm totally down. I'm ready. Here's the money. Here's sign wherever. I want it to do more stuff because it's done well for us. I want to do more Dawn stuff. I love that movie. It's just we're waiting. We're just waiting. It's same thing with the UK shipping, which somebody mentioned. We're still waiting. Just waiting. Like there's only so much you can do. It's in your control. So as soon as the day comes that we're able to do more Dawn stuff, believe me, we'll be doing it.
Mm-hmm. Well, good to know. That was one of my questions for later anyway, knowing me.
Well, go ahead and get the other one out of the way. Where's the Bruiser products?
Yeah.
George actually premiered Bruiser right here in Rochester. So we have the George Eastman house, and they also have archival. They archive just tons of films there because it's a school. And George kept a lot of his personal film here. And was it 1998? He premiered Bruiser here, and I got to go see that premiere with George in attendance. And I remember asking him a question in the audience that night, never knowing that I would ever get to meet him in person or work with him or whatever. But it was pretty awesome. That was a highlight at that point.
Yeah, he showed that on a VHS the first night I met him at a small gathering at Westchester University. He was like, I was going to show Night, but here's my new one, Bruiser. And I was like, I was so excited. I was like, finally, I get to see this movie that I've been, reading about, because you had to read about it in Fangoria or find a message board. And so, but again, I'm wearing the shirt that you did for George, and I was super excited when I looked in there. I was like, there's the Bruiser mask. I'm done. So excited. It was like everything else is great, but get that Bruiser mask in there. And that was wonderful.
That's awesome.
Let's see, Duncan has a question. Love to know what movie started your love of horror and what movies he saw on his first T-shirts. Sorry.
So, I mean, the night that started my love of horror was October 30th, 1981, because that was the night I got to see Halloween for the first time. And I was only 4, and basically it was the TV premiere of the film on network TV on, I think it was it NBC Friday Night Movies.
Oh, so you saw the TV cut.
I saw the TV cut, and we were at a friend's house. I think we were having like a Halloween party or something, because I feel like I remember being in costume. But anyway, it was typical 1981. My brothers and my sister are off with their family friends, whatever. My parents are talking to their parents. And I'm like, Mom, I want to go home. And she's like, go watch TV, just like sit in front of the TV. And I did. I sat down, like probably 2 feet away from the TV, turned it on, and then the movie started. It was like 8 o'clock, right? And I just sat there and watched the whole thing. And it left a mark on me. You know what I mean? Like I think I was too young to even be scared of it so much as I was fascinated. I got scared of it later on as I got older. But like, I was like, what is this person in this mask and coming through the closet, and like, what's happening? Like, this is, for a 4-year-old, that's pretty crazy. And that literally, like, from then on, it was like, okay, and then that's when movie stores started, home video stores. And it was like, what has a mask and is killing kids? Like, who's got a mask on? Who's killing kids? Just give me those things. I want it. Yeah.
Another question. Did you have a Holy Grail property that you'd love to get the license for?
Yes. I mean, obviously, I think for us, the elephant in the room really is Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street. A lot of the stuff that Warner Brothers has, it's been really hard to get in there. And with Friday and even Nightmare, there's been some lawsuits that have affected and impacted those licenses. Yet there are definitely other companies putting things out, like Figures and other stuff. And but it's so hard. And we've done Friday the 13th stuff in the past that it was unlicensed. We did it for like 3 days, and that was back when we weren't really doing as much licensed stuff, and we would just kind of be like, oh, Friday 13th, here's a shirt. But several years ago, I said, you know what? I would personally, because we were doing so many licensed things at the time. Now everything's licensed, but like back then it was like sort of somewhat of a mix. I was like, you know what? I just don't want to do any more of that until we can get the license and say, no, we are actually doing Friday the 13th stuff. It's not just, we're doing Friday the 13th. You know what I mean? I mean, listen, there are just some films that the rights are in such limbo that we've done it before. We're like, we'll put it out there, and if someone wants to come to us, great, we can get a deal, That doesn't happen often, but in the case of something like Friday, it's like we know who's got it. It's just we haven't been able to get it yet. But I just didn't, I prefer to wait. So to me, that's Holy Grail. I mean, Halloween would have been the Holy Grail, but we've had that for a while now, and luckily so. So I mean, now everything's just gravy.
Yeah, you guys are pretty synonymous with Halloween. I mean, there's not a Monster Mania or a chiller that I walk through that I don't see 100 folks wearing a Fright-Rags Halloween shirt. And the work you guys do with especially like Justin Osborne putting that stuff out is just top notch. And I think that's great that you guys are giving fans such variety with a film that folks own hundreds of pieces of memorabilia and dozen t-shirts, and then you come out with a new one and people are like, I need another Halloween shirt to wear, and they can wear a Halloween shirt every day for a month and never repeat.
Pretty much.
And that's wonderful because we grew up, I mean, all of us grew up in that era wishing we had all of that.
Yeah, for sure.
And now we do with folks like you.
Well, thanks. I mean, I appreciate that, because especially speaking of Halloween specifically, the day, I'll never forget it, the day I signed the deal, it was finally done. And this deal had been in works for almost 8 years. And I remember inking the deal, sending it in, and I came home from the office that day, and I went out in my backyard, and I had a cigar and like a bourbon or something sitting there, and I was like, I got Halloween. This is the moment. And I go, oh my God, what are we going to do? Like, what can we do with this film? Like, it was almost like I'm so close to that movie. I don't even, at the time it was almost like writer's block, where you're like, what do you do? Like, that hasn't been done, or what's blah, blah, blah. And, we got over that pretty quick. And in the beginning, our license for that was pretty limited. We could only do like 2 shirts or 3 shirts at the time. But then when we re-signed, and we have a great relationship with the studio. So, I mean, we've been very fortunate where I can kind of be like, hey, this is what we're thinking of doing. And they'll be like, yeah, go for it. I'm like, sweet. Like, so it's been great. And that's why, like, especially with Halloween, like, it's like, ooh, I want to do that. And then, we get to do it. Or sometimes it gets rejected, which is fine. We're always throwing things at the wall, but it's fun to be able to do.
What's it like working with some of the artists about some of these collabs, like a Justin Osborne or an Ian Fetterman who does the pumpkins for you? What's that process like to kind of get their your ideas to them, and then what they want to put in? Can you talk about that a bit?
Sure. Yeah. So it's different for every person, and it's different for every job. So like Justin Osborne's a great example. He's pretty much our flagship, one of our kind of 2 flagship people that we work with on a regular basis. So Justin, what I've always appreciated about him is he's got an amazing style, but he's very good compositionally. He can put things in an image, and he just gets it. So with him, so each license might have its own limitations. So for example, something like Night of Living Dead, we can do all likenesses. We have the okay and the permission to use people's faces. But when you get into movies like, this is a good example, Halloween 1 versus Halloween 2. Halloween 2 is owned by Universal Studios. Halloween 1 is owned by Compass International. Okay. Halloween 1, we have all likenesses. We can do pretty much what we want as long as it's approved. Halloween 2, can't use anybody. Can't use Jamie Lee Curtis. Can't use Donald Pleasance. Can't use anybody from that movie except for Michael Myers. So you can maybe do this and shadows and stuff. But as long as I give Justin the stipulation, I kind of just let him roll. I said, just go for it. And he'll send back a sketch sometimes. And once in a while, I'll be like, that's awesome, but what if we did this? Or what if we did this? Most of the time, he kind of nails it first time. And I'm like, I love it. I love working with people that have a vision and they can execute it. But at the same time, we definitely, like, there have been times where I've come to Justin, like, classic examples, Jaws, we were trying to figure out what to do. Can't do any likenesses because it's Universal, and we can't just have 20 shirts with just a shark on it. And we were sitting around kicking around ideas, and I said, what if we have that famous scene where Brody is slumming the chum and he's looking away, but we're shooting it from the shark's mouth. So that way you've got black around for the shirt, but he's already got to look away anyway, but you're coming from the sharks to see the teeth. So I ran into my office, I sketched it out for Justin, I took a picture of it, sent it off to him, and I said, this is what I'm looking for. But it was like such a basic, like, this. And he turns around and makes this masterpiece. And I was like, boom. So it's collaborative, but I do like the artists that we work with. I like working with them because they have a unique vision and style, and I like to see that we're kind of curators of that, you know? Like, yeah, we might come with an exact idea of what we want or need, but there's also other times where I'm like, I want to see what you would do. Like, I'm curious. Here's the limitations, but what would you do, you know?
Mm-hmm. Have you ever been approached to, or maybe you've done this in the past, but getting involved with films at the release level, theatrical products?
Yeah, a few times actually. It's interesting. We got a call. It's funny. It was a couple, 3 years ago now. We got a call at the office, and I remember I wanted to go see A Quiet Place. It just come out or something, and I hadn't seen it yet. I think it had been out a week or two, and Paramount called us, and they're like, "Hey, you want to do shirts for this movie?" And I'm like, "I'll be right back. I gotta go see it first." To the theater to watch it. And I'm like, "Yeah, we would like to get the license," and that does come up to us. I mean, there's definitely. We get approached for a lot of different films, sometimes some indie films that are coming out. They're like, oh, we'd love to do a shirt with you. And we try to fit those in where we can, depending on the property. It's really hard, especially now we've been so busy. I've had to turn down a lot of different projects because I'm like, I don't have time for it. But there have been some other higher profile movies that I thought would be a good opportunity. Like, for example, you know, MGM came to us for the new Candyman film last year, and they said, we'd like you to do shirts. I mean, that would be amazing. Obviously, it got pushed off to this year, but, you know, we signed a deal. Same thing with the new Halloween films. It was like, you know, Halloween Kills, yes, and Halloween Ends, yes, people to be a part of it. So it does happen.
Awesome. And I wanted to ask how, you know, COVID-19 has affected your business structure. How has that, how have you had to adjust, and how has that been?
In the beginning, we were all really scared, just like everybody. I mean, when New York announced the pause, that was March 20th, I think. We were scared because I didn't know what that meant in terms of if it would, because we're in our own building, we're isolated. It's not like we share a space with lots of people. But I didn't want to get fined or go to jail or something because we had to work, you know. And at the time, you know, nobody knew what was going on and who was going to check on this, or people knocking on doors, like, what's happening. So that first sort of weekend, it's weird. I did this Instagram live story, just kind of talking to people like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just keeping people updated. We might not even be able to be back in the office. I don't know. And it's weird because orders started really dropping. And I was like, okay, what happens now? What do we do? How do we plan for this? What are we going to do? And there was PPP money I could sign up for, and the SBA thing and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, within like 2 weeks or a week, maybe, we realized, okay, we can have one person in there at a time, and we can have the sanitizers and all that stuff. We'll split shifts. Everybody else works from home. You know, we'll sanitize everything. We won't even be in contact with one another. And we, you know, read the protocols, and I contacted the state to make sure that was okay and all these other things. And then it exploded. And basically, we've been running around with our hair on fire since then. Because last year was our biggest year ever, by far, and it has not stopped. I thought, okay, we're going to ride into 2021, but Q1's always slower, traditionally always slower for us. It has not been the case. It's actually, we've more than doubled our business this Q1 than last year. So it has been amazing because of the business, but it has been a struggle and a challenge to keep up and keep it going, because we've still got a lot of things to release. But when you have a schedule and you're releasing things, and you kind of have it dialed into what to sort of expect, and then things completely over exceed your expectations, now you're bottlenecking, but you still have these releases coming up. So you're like, oh boy, it's like a flood coming in. And it's just like, you can't stop it, which is awesome, but at the same time scary. And that's what we're kind of dealing with right now.
It's amazing. It's awesome. And I wanted to, what was your first, because now you guys are into, you know, socks, jammy pants, trading cards, and, you know, we'll talk about it later, the figurines that are coming out. But what was your first venture into non-t-shirt products?
That's a good question. So we did t-shirts for a while. I think, trying to think, we did hats a little bit, like very, like early on, not early, but like late 2000s, early 2010s. We did a couple of different hats that seemed to sell well. but I could never really get a good, I just couldn't open that channel up too much until I had a friend of mine, my friend Steve Roman, I met actually through Instagram. He's a customer of ours. He ended up being able to then kind of work for us freelance to do a lot of the hat design. He comes from that world. So it was like, that's awesome. And that really opened that channel wide open. Socks came around 2014, 2015. I remember going to licensing show in Vegas, and there were some manufacturers there, and I saw socks. And I'm like, can you do like you do custom socks? Like, yeah. I'm like, ooh. So like we started thinking that way. And even the lounge pants were like, I had a pair of lounge pants my wife bought me that were like the most comfortable things ever. And I'm like, well, what if I had these? They're just black. What if I had them with like Night of the Living Dead or Halloween or, you know, whatever. And I found a factory and got samples and started working with what material to use and all that. So yeah, I would say maybe a few hats earlier on, but then socks were probably the first thing that was like not, well, I guess pins too. They're enamel pins, you know, we started getting to, was it like 2014, 2015, you know, as that kind of blew up, we got into that too. So that was probably the first few items we did.
No, thank you for the socks. I love wearing mine to work almost every day. They're great. They don't, you know, I don't get yelled at because the socks don't take up room in my closet, and I can get away with them most days. And people are like, what are on your socks? I'm like, oh, look, here's Jordy Verrill or something. You know, it's a great conversation piece.
Like we had a lot of people. I had this woman, she was a police officer, and she sent me a picture, and she's like, listen, I have to wear this uniform, so I can't wear shirts all day, but I can wear the socks. And she was wearing like our Predator socks or something. I'm like, that's awesome.
Was there any hesitation branching out into socks? And, you know, because you guys do lunch boxes and some other stuff, was there any hesitation, or is there any kind of apparel or something that you guys want to do that you haven't quite gotten to yet?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have a list of ideas that we're working on. There's been a couple of things that I wanted to do this summer that are going to get pushed back because of time, right? It's just all timing. And I want to make sure when we do it, we come out of the gate doing it right. You know, there's always, you know, we can always tweak. We've tweaked the lounge pants here and there. We've tweaked things, but I want to make sure that we've put the effort and the love and the care into it so we can really put out a quality product as opposed to just rushing something. There's nothing. So there's definitely a few things on my list that we're going to get to eventually. We just haven't yet. And it's weird because, you know, a lot of things we do sometimes are one and done. We try to open it as a big pre-order and let people order as much as they want. And then it's kind of one and done. We can't carry these things like all the time. Like lounge pants are a little bit different, but like the Haddonfield varsity hoodie, that was an idea that we had conjured up one day. And I thought that would be cool. And it had like the chenille patch H and then the Haddonfield chenille patch in the back. It looked really cool. And we had only, you know, we made a certain number of them that sold out, boom, like in a minute on Halloween. And I was like, I think we have to do this again. And so we did an open pre-order last year and sold like way more than I ever expected. Then people are constantly asking for that to come back, but we have other ideas for new ones. So then it's like, do we bring back that one? Do we do a new one? Like what? It starts to jam up. Like, what do you do? Because there's demand for the old one, but then there's new ones we want to put out. So it's like, I don't know. So we try to play it like a set list, you know what I mean? Like, let's try this one now and then we'll do this one later and move this around. So yeah, I mean, there is always hesitation, right? Like even with the figures and stuff, when people say you should have made more, and we get that a lot, like if we sell out of something, you should have made more. I always ask for the crystal ball because I don't have a crystal ball. If you have one, awesome. Tell me exactly the number 8, because you know, what I don't understand is we never know. And that's why we try to now do is like, especially for things like the Nano Force and lunchboxes, is do an open pre-order for a set number of days just so people have a chance to get it. I don't want to piss anybody off by selling out of something in 2 seconds. That's not my goal. But in some cases, we only have a limited number, and that's what it is. And to get more is going to take 7-8 months, you know, so it's hard.
Or could there even be potentially a case where you're just contracted to that number? And
it could be, or you know, in the case of like even the Halloween Nano Force, that was going to be for another project, but COVID happened, so we decided to just sell it direct, and we had that number made. We wouldn't have been able to. That was already a done deal. I didn't think we would sell it in literally 10 minutes. You know what I mean? We had 2,500 units that were gone. 10 minutes gone.
Oh.
Like oops. And now they're selling for $150 on eBay, which is ridiculous, by the way. And I don't, it's flattering to one end, but I don't want anybody to ever pay those prices, which is why we're releasing a second edition this year, and we're going to swap some things around so people will still be able to get it. But we want to be able to meet the demand that's out there. It's always going to be limited inherently. Like, we're never just going to constantly re-release things all the time because we just physically can't. But I want to give people a chance. You know what I mean? I don't want to just like be like 2 seconds and it's gone and you can never get one,
Right.
Has there ever been a shirt or a product that surprised you, like, oh my God, this thing is more popular than anyone anticipated?
I mean, honestly, I think I would go back to the Halloween Nanoforce, and the reason why, I loved the Nanoforce idea when Joe brought it to me, and I know we'll be getting into that in a little bit. But what I didn't expect, I mean, listen, it's Halloween. There's tons of fans for Halloween, just like there are for Night of the Living Dead and other popular titles. I get it. And I thought we had a really quality product. But at the same time, I also understood there were other Halloween things out there, figures and other stuff people could buy. And these are literally, one color, they're 2 inches. I mean, it's supposed to be like that. It's like the old Army Men. But I didn't know if 2,500 would be like, what's that number? I could, are we going to sell that many? I mean, and these factories have minimum order quantities. I can't buy another 200 if I needed to, or I can't just buy 200 if I wanted to. I have to buy thousands of these things. So there's like, I'm hoping the market likes what we're doing enough that we can make this many, because otherwise we have a bunch of stock we can't sell, and even like the figures, like the Joe Bob figure we did last April, when we first put that out, I didn't know what to expect. And that first one of the blue shirt, we made 1,000 of, and they were gone in minutes. Like, boom, just gone. And I was like, whoa. So that's why we brought we did the red shirt in August, and we made that an open-ended pre-order. And those sold like crazy for that weekend. So we're bringing that back next month too. So it's just trying to keep up with demand.
Yeah. Don't underestimate Joe Bob.
What's that?
Don't underestimate Joe Bob.
Oh man, he's the best. Like, he's amazing. He's a great guy. So I'm happy to be working with him.
Nice.
Well, what do you say, guys? You want to go ahead and bring on Joe Senna of Fourth Castle?
Yes.
Talk about these. Let's go ahead and bring on Joe. How's it going, Joe?
Hey,
hey, Joe.
Thank you for having me. This is an honor. I'm going to geek out a little bit. Night of the Living Dead was one of my first horror films, and this is my all-time favorite horror film. So it's nice to kind of be in the sandbox.
No, love it. Love the Dawn Love behind you with the Second Sight box set, and I can see the board game, the Iron City can.
There you
1978 vintage.
Yep.
Dang.
Still have the pop top on it? Or
Yeah, the trick is there's a guy out there who must have a bunch of them. They
do the bottom, yeah.
They do that. But you could do the whole, I'm a man thing,
That's right.
So, but thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And we want to discuss the Nanoforce Night of the Living Dead figures that are going to go up for pre-order on March 31st, and the pre-order will last until April 4th, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah, we learned our lesson with Halloween. And and Ben, so I guess you've blown the surprise now, right? You've announced that we're doing it again.
What's that?
Halloween.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
well, if that's not already out there, then that's gonna please a lot of people.
I've been teasing it to different people.
Oh, you have?
Well,
all I've been telling people is just don't save your eBay money. That's all I've been saying.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I've been telling people. I've said, listen, we are planning on, because even right from the beginning, I was like, listen, we're working on ways to do a second edition. Just give us a chance. And so I've been sort of just. There's no date set. I mean, well, I haven't set the date. We have the date internally, but I haven't set the date. Or anything.
I know this isn't the John Carpenter podcast.
Yeah, right.
But,
we get it.
But I just wanted to say, it's like, so can I officially say that now? Great.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
And was it that Halloween set that kind of led into this Night of the Living Dead set? Talk about that a little bit.
The genesis of our doing the Halloween set first of all, which started it with Ben was, I've known Ben since that first Monster Mania convention. And Ben has a funny story he could tell you about how we met. But we've known each other for a while. We've been doing action figures. Fourth Castle, under the brand MC Toys, has been doing action figures since 2004. We started initially with Mego style. We're contractually obligated not to use the M word. But we started doing those types of figures for a while. And then we started doing Army Men figures when the recession hit in 2008, 2009. And the genesis of us working with Ben was our distributor came to us and said, we want to start doing Army Men figures of some of these horror properties. My buyer, our respective friend, Eric Watson over at Diamond Comics, is a huge horror fan. He's like, I want to do a Halloween box set. I'm like, okay. This is before Ben and I started talking. I went out and I bought some Halloween licenses, and I'm a little older than you guys, so I'm not aware of how popular each particular sequel is. So I signed a license for, I think it was Halloween 97 to 230. And lo and behold, I show up one day with a mock-up of a box really for Halloween 6. And really all it was a couple of Michael Myers figures and a whole bunch of generic victims, the jock, the nerd, all that kind of stuff. And I thought, okay, hey, it's slashers versus victims. And Eric looks at me and he says, come on, man. This isn't going to work. If it's not going to be the original. And I'm like, how the hell am I going to get the original? I mean, that's probably going to cost a lot of money. And I think that's when, and we've had some success with licenses. I personally don't like licenses. It's a very scary, ugly, disgusting business I was in for 10 years before. So I went to Ben and I said, dude, the Halloween guys, think we could pull this off? So a couple of phone calls later, suddenly it was happening. So we had that prepared for Toy Fair in February of 2020. Yeah. It was we had a booth. It was our first time at Toy Fair in a long time, and we had all these Nano Forces, a whole bunch with Ben, and a whole bunch of video games and stuff like that, and buyers from Target and Best Buy and all these other guys were coming in and saying, yeah, we want this. I'm like, great, this is awesome. 2020 is going to be our best year.
And then we were never supposed to sell them on our website. That wasn't going to be the distribution channel.
That was your idea.
Acting as the licensee of it. With Fourth Castle, obviously with Joe, but we were putting our little spin on it with our artwork and stuff. So it looked a little bit more like a Fright-Rags branded product, but it was all really just a conduit for Joe to sell into Diamond so they could sell into big stores. And we were just sort of hitching onto the trailer of that, essentially.
Well, I'm glad you look at it that way. I felt like I was hitching onto yours because, you say, what horror licenses do you have, Ben? And he just sends you to the website and you just, look at all the lists. I'm like, I'd really like to do a thing, Nano Force. That's just a wish. So, so it was, and since we got along, it just was a natural thing. We were going to do it, sell it to Diamond, and we were going to split the profits. Mm-hmm. Yeah. After COVID hit, everybody was kind of wandering in the wilderness, and Ben and Eric from Diamond and Nick Murray from a company called Fan Wraps of the Baby Yoda on board sticker fame. We just decided on Fridays we were going to sit around and just start talking about what the hell we're going to do. And then when was it, Ben, when I said, how's your business doing? And you said, well, I'm having a year full of Black Fridays.
Yeah, I think that's how you put it. It could have been April because it was that fast. The pandemic started. It really just kind of went like that. Yeah. Pretty soon.
That's when we weren't having a year like that. And that's when Ben said, why don't I just buy this stuff from you wholesale and then sell it on my website because I sell all my stuff direct to consumer anyway. And I'm like, okay, well, our MOQ is 2,500. You know, do you think that people are going to buy 2,500 of these things? And you know the punchline of that joke. So
yeah.
So that was a nice surprise. What happened was we were all nervous promoting the hell out of this thing, and then when the thing finally went live at noon, I decided I wasn't going to look at the internet. I was going to give it a day or two. 10 minutes later, there's a text from Ben, and I'm like, oh, fuck. These things, it's just tumbleweeds. And he says, we're sold out.
Wow.
I've been in this business. I've been in this business since they invented plastic. And I've never had anything sell out in 10 minutes. So so that was a good and a bad problem. The good problem was they sold out. The bad problem was because we said 2,500 units, kind of gave the impression it was a limited edition. So here are all these people buying it because they're thinking it's a limited edition. And it's like, well, gee, if we knew how many more people were out there, we would have made more. So it's like, how do we do this without screwing the people who bought the original version? So Ben will speak to that since he let the cat out of the proverbial bag.
And again, like with we ended up doing the lunch boxes, and now with Night of Living Dead stuff is, you know, and we've done this before where we just allow orders to come in. We do a limited time pre-order as opposed to limited number pre-order, and that does allow for people to get in on it over the course of 5, maybe even 7 days, you know, for almost basically a week, where you don't have to get up at the crack of dawn just to get in on there, you know. You want to go ahead, but as long as you order within those 5 to 7 days, you're good. And then that does cap it off for us, because we can then say, okay, that's how many we need. We'll order extras, of course, but that allows us to say, okay, factory, do this, because we can't. At least for us, we just can't keep that open-ended and rolling. We have to cap it because we have so many other things going on. It's just like the Halloween lunchboxes. We have so much demand for those right now. Once they all get shipped out to customers, the extras that we have will probably go in less than a minute at this point. But
and you're not even counting the ones that we have on that boat in the Suez Canal.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, those might, because there was somebody asking when am I getting mine, and I was going to just point them to the lower end of Africa where all the other boats are going.
Luckily,
that's not the truth. That's not the truth. That's not the truth.
But yeah, so Night of Living Dead, the lunchbox and the Nanoforce, I'm like, we're going to do this as an open-ended pre-order for 5 days, and same thing with the next Halloween Nanoforce that we do. We'll do the same thing, and any other lunchbox or Nanoforce that we do, or figure release. So anything that requires that kind of production and timeline and things, we have to do it that way. With shirts, we can be a little more nimble. We can be like, we're going to make, maybe a couple hundred shirts, but if they sell out in a couple minutes or an hour, we can kind of shift and put them on pre-order and make more, because the printers are right down the street from ours. So we can kind of shift. But with stuff like figures, that's a harder one to do.
And it's the reason why we're in figures is because we started as a t-shirt business. Up the hall at Monster Mania from some young bunch of punks who were making their own t-shirts. And selling them better than we were. So we decided, maybe we should get out of the t-shirt business. And that's when we started producing the action figures. We had started initially, we brought back that format in 2005. We recreated the old Star Trek. You guys are all probably too young to remember this stuff, but this company was the action figure company in the 1970s. And we, because I was a Star Trek licensee in a past life, I connected some dots. We did Star Trek, Planet of the Apes, and then a whole bunch of figures like that. And Night of the Living Dead. The reason we got into Night of the Living Dead. Am I tracking, by the way? Because you're like, how did we do Night of the Living Dead with Ben? And I'm going all the way back to.
I'm taking notes and leaving breadcrumbs.
Fine, thank you.
We're good.
Yes, please feel free to say so.
Plug on the rope if you get lost.
That would
Tug 3 times if you're too far out. Yeah, I got
be the first time. Well, you got that private chat thing. I'm waiting for someone to say stop talking. What happened was I, as a fellow growing up reading Famous Monsters magazine, then eventually Fangoria, but of course my I was of the age where my friends were the ones running Fangoria at the time. So that wasn't really my thing. I was the old school monster movie guy, but Night of the Living Dead was very different. And I had seen it on TV the first time. It's funny because it turns out Jim Serenella and I discovered we were watching it at exactly the same moment in 1975, where they used to put, when they did the close-up of Charles Craig talking about, the epidemic, they would flash something called a dramatization underneath.
Dramatization, that's right.
That's so funny.
I never told you this. I
don't think I knew that.
And that was the scariest thing to me. I'm 12 years old. I'm in age. And my parents are out of the house, and I'm watching this thing in a dark room. It says a dramatization. And what scared me the most about that picture was the fact that there could be people out there believing that this kind of nonsense is happening. But that was a big thrill for me. So later on, as I got to know more about this stuff and I discovered about the whole public domain debacle, the law is a hobby of mine. And I did some digging, and when I realized there was nothing we could do to help them out with the copyright, I looked up to see whether or not the title had ever been trademarked for merchandise. And there was one guy who had the trademark, and it was for a beer company. So for $375, I trademarked T-shirts, action figures, and I don't know how many other things with two purposes in mind. One of which was primarily to get Kyra Schoen some money, because she was all over every damn T-shirt everywhere, and she wasn't seeing a dime. And then, of course, there was the whole Indiana Jones and the Temple of and the Last Crusade. What was the third one?
Last Crusade.
It was the whole "this belongs in a museum" kind of mentality. It was like, I want to take this trademark and I'm going to drag it in chains to the folks over at Image 10 and say, "Look what I have brought thee." And that's how we got to know the folks at Image 10, and that's a whole nother story, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful time. But we said, we're making these action figures. Why don't we do Night of the Living Dead? So we did Ben, and we did the Cemetery Ghoul, as I now know he's called. But I don't have any of him because he's sold out, so I don't even have one. But I do have the original prototype from way back. Thank you for zooming in. So this is the original prototype of the Graveyard Ghoul. As you can see, we didn't even realize we were supposed to tear the shoulder. So those were the first two that we did, and they sold out. So, Night of the Living Dead is something we've wanted to get back into for a while. Ben, of course, has gone out and done everything with Night of the Living Dead. So once we were done with these particular types of action figures, then we were done. When he brought up, hey, why don't we do Night of the Living Dead as Nanoforce? After Halloween had come out, we were thrilled. But we were like, how are we going to do that? It's a black and white movie. How are we going to color the figures? And before we did horror stuff, we followed the old Army Man style where the good guys were one color, the bad guys were another color. We discovered with Halloween that wasn't going to work. So that's why we mixed everybody up in orange and black. So this is a black and white movie. So we decided we were just going to do shades of gray. Now, I realized you haven't even shown any of these things yet, have you, Ben?
Yeah, we're holding on you.
Okay. Okay, I'm waiting for the shut up, Joe. Yeah. Let Ben show them.
You're setting it up.
So anyway, we have some prototypes. Ben?
Yes. So we got the prototypes yesterday, and I can show you these, but these are the prototypes, so the colors are different, but the sculpts are exactly the same. So we've got John Russo right there.
Jack Russo gets an action figure.
Yeah. And sorry, I know I'm messing up with the camera here, but you can see him. These things, so these are 2 inches. Mm-hmm. The detail on these is ridiculous. And of course, if anyone has the Halloween set, you know what to expect. I can just go kind of through these, but we've got the Toga Zombie. And
hospital gown Ghoul.
Or Ghoul, sorry. Yeah, my bad. Hospital gown. My bad. And then, of course, that's Cemetery Ghoul, Bill Heinzman. I know. I'm sorry. I'm like trying to
It's hard to, yeah.
It's hard. Of course, there's Tom and Judy. Tom's gas thing broke off a little bit in transit, but that's just because it's a prototype.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, these are not made of the material that the figures are going to be made of. These are resin 3D
yes
models, so they do tend to snap when they get mailed. So.
Yeah.
I love that Johnny pose because it's just I can
I mean, what I love about these is the silhouette is perfect. Like
you got the head tilt. Like there's just
you already know what it is without having to even see the detail. That's key, you know, and that's what sets these apart from like a generic army man. You know, you can have just some generic army dude, or you can have like a recognizable person. And this is Kyra, but obviously, it's still. I mean, that's Karen right there.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
The trowel. I was concerned that the trowel wasn't even going to be able to. It was going to be too small to get pulled off in the mold.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to do this.
Harry, Cooper, and Ben.
Yep.
Yeah, see, Harry's finger is missing.
Oh yeah.
Because we took the pose where he's like, you know, he's doing that, and
you'll see his finger in the final one.
Yeah.
And then Undead Johnny, or no, this is Undead Johnny. Sorry.
Now somebody in the chat said, "What's wrong with Johnny's hands?" And now I asked, "Do you mean Undead Johnny or living Johnny?" They didn't respond.
I think Undead Johnny, but it's just because his hands kind of twisted.
Well, he's posing. If this is the coming through the door pose,
right.
So he's got one hand on the door and he's reaching for Barbara.
Yeah. Oh, here's Helen Cooper, Marilyn Eastman, of course.
I love that detail.
And then she's busted off her stand here, but it's Barbara, of course.
Yeah, we took some liberties with Barbara. I mean, for the purists out there, don't email that her coat was closed and her shoes were off, and it's like it's like we knew this. So
with these being 2 inches and there's 12 of them, there's always a 13th bonus figure. Now, again, like Joe said, these are in resin, so this one is going to be glow in the dark and translucent when the final. This happens to be a solid color, but it shows you the detail. And this, of course, is George. It is so
beautiful.
It is amazing. It's perfect. It's like I just want him on my desk because just sitting there, you know, like I mean, you can see the detail.
It's great.
One of my favorite comments in all of the various social media is, "So I'm paying $23 for a George Romero figure, and I get 12 bonus 2 inches."
So this, again, just for anyone watching, listening, this will be in translucent plastic that glows. It won't be this bright yellow. Oh, and on the back is his son of a gun. 1 second. His signature.
Amazing.
That's perfect.
So it really, and just to speak to this real quick, the reason why we chose this Romero, this George, we had this discussion internally. Clearly, Night of the Living Dead was 1968. This is not a 1968 George, but we felt that we wanted to honor him, kind of memorialize him. I mean, it's got his name on the bottom. We really wanted this to be a special thing because this was the one that started it all. Yes, we could have made him as 28-year-old George, but we felt like when people think of George Romero, they think of this George. And you can set him up, and he's the father of all of this, and you can put all his children, if you will, beneath him, and he can just be over them. And we just felt, I don't know, I just felt like it was a fitting tribute to make it in the image of who we always think of as George. I mean, he has different looks over different years, but I think this is probably the most classic look.
It's the one that everybody's known him in all the years he's been at conventions. I mean, it was the standard uniform, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the vest, obviously he's got the loop and the earphones and the clipboard, but it's just great.
You nailed the glasses too. I mean, that's just signature.
My first question is there any limit to how many of these I can pre-order?
No, because we're just limiting it by time. So we're allowing people to order what they want. So
the joke in the toy business is they're limited edition, limited to however many we can sell.
Right.
That's great. Yeah, definitely going to have to get a display and one for the storage.
Thanks, Gary. Gary's a great guy. You know, I have to say.
Oh, is Gary there?
Yeah, he just put up the comment. And I'm not saying this just because Gary said this or is watching right now, because I would say this no matter what. But legitimately, working with Gary and Jim and Image 10 has been amazing. Very much like Halloween, where I get to work very closely with them, and it's not so standoffish. Image 10 is the same way. Like, literally just being able to call up Gary or Jim and talk about these things. What it does is it allows us this ability to like really share the passion. Like other studios, and understandably so, when you have bigger studios, bigger properties, there's a kind of a disconnect, and you're kind of spending a lot of your time trying to convince people with things. With Image 10, it's like they're just with you on it, and it allows us, like, it's literally just gives us the ability to say, hey, we want to do this kind of crazy thing we're thinking of, and we think it'll work. Are you cool with that? And they're like, yeah, do it. You know, obviously they have to approve it, but at the same time, you know, they were just so, you know, able to help, just allow us to do it, you know, give us the kind of carte blanche in a way. And that's just been really great for us, because we can kind of stretch our creative muscles doing stuff. And, you know, working with Suze at the GARF, you know what I mean? And having her blessing on this figure and the George shirt and stuff. Like, what an honor to be working with her and continuing George's legacy in any way we can, you know, in any small way. So it's been great.
Well, maybe you can talk about this, Joe. How does the figures go from concept to actual manufacturing? And I do want to call you out. You were showing those.
Yeah, yes, I knew you were going. Yeah.
All right.
They usually start, and these are relatively rough, because these are just gesture drawings. So this way you could see Harry's got a finger. It is the index finger. But basically, I send these to my factory just as gestures. And okay, now we got the Ben problem. Where are we? Okay.
Yeah.
So there's Johnny with the hand. There was my first shot at Jack Russo, and then there's Jack, and then there was hospital gown Ghoul, and in the pose that we've had the most detail on. But what, you know, it kind of looked boring, so we decided, and this is a little rougher, but we figured it'd be nice if he was chewing on something. So I send these to the factory with 150 pages worth of stills from the movie, which I thought I had all the details until Jim Cirinella looked at some of the figures, and he says, "Okay, Karen's shoes are different. This is," and I'm, you know, I've seen all of the Dead films way over 100 times. I'm like, okay, Jim. So that was great to have that level of. Because again, I mentioned I was a Star Trek licensee, so there was an archivist there who had all the stuff if we needed it. And to know that there is somebody who's got that role now with Night of the Living Dead, you know, Night of the Living Dead, the next generation, for lack of a better phrase, you know, Jim and Gary really taking this and turning it into, you know, what it always should have been. It's been great. So anyway, I send this to the factory, and the factory does the 3D sculpts, which of course, if you followed our respective Instagrams, you know, at Fourth Castle, you'll see all the 3D images up close. So more detail than you'll even see in the 2-inch figure. And then what they do is, once that's approved, they take the 3D image and they laser out the negative version of that into a mold. Now, we've talked about these being classic Army Men, and it's a little bit of a cheat, because to do Army Men, it's an A-B thing. You know, they have to go like this. So when you have, for example, Harry Cooper with the crowbar. Thank you so much. Here's a little something extra for you.
Thank you.
You know, Harry Cooper with the crowbar. When we first started doing these, you know, you couldn't have the crowbar out in front of him. It had to be pressed against him. So the factory has enjoyed working on these projects so much, and I have to say this because they're learning about this stuff.
Right.
I usually send them a link to where to see the movie, and it comes up in English, but the factory tries very hard to explain just how gross they think some of these movies are. But they looked at the Harry thing, and I'm like, okay, so we're gonna put the crowbar against his chest. They said, nope. We're gonna do the arms in separate parts, and we're gonna glue them together. And so these are actually like role-playing miniature quality figures.
Yeah, I mean, these things are intense in terms of detail. It's ridiculous.
So that's how that works. And then there's an insert that goes in each one. I forgot to say that the guys at Fright-Rags, by the way, Joe Guy, Tansky, Jason Osborne's brother Justin.
That's an inside joke.
I typed his name wrong on the packaging one day. So we just handle the figures. Typically we would handle the design, we handle the map inside, we handle everything. And what happens is it's plug and play when we're working with Ben and his guys. It's like I just have to worry about the figures and they make everything else. And then what happens is we find out how many we're going to order. And hi, Russ.
Hey, Russ.
Hey. Russ is okay. Very quick, because I know we only have a few seconds. When I was telling you about how I got the trademark, okay, Russ, you better be listening to this. I go to some convention, I forget where, and I think it was a chiller convention. And it was like all the Night of the Living Dead people, and none of them looked happy, because I didn't know the history of what went on for 50 years at the time. And I meet Russ. I'm introduced to him by Chris Rowe, the same guy who repped George, and I say, hi, Russ, I have...
There you are, Russ. There you are.
There you are.
That's got run.
I say, Mr. Striner, I'm going up to him like a nervous fanboy. I'm 45 at the time. And I say, I have the trademark for Night of the Living Dead. And he went right into like, no, you don't. Night of the Living Dead is a property of Image, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. It's cool. It's cool. This is yours. It belongs in the museum. And so I won't go too far, but Russ has become one of my closest friends, actually, in the last decade or so, and allowed us to start this ball rolling, taking this $375 piece of paper and turning it into what these guys have been able to do with the entire franchise. And I mean, that for me is a huge freaking deal. We went off topic again. I think I told you how we make action figures, right?
That is a big deal, Joe. You're the man. Really appreciate your involvement in that. That's amazing.
Well, it's spearheaded. I mean, at least in my mind, it seems it's spearheaded all of this. Not just what we do, but all the other things that licensees are doing. There's so many other cool products being put out there. Obviously, Criterion put out the movie. I mean, it's just so cool. It's just so cool that it became, I want to say legitimized, even though that's a weird term, but like in this realm of legal possibility. For years it wasn't like that,
Well, there are other players who tried to take advantage of the we still will not call it public domain status of the film, and it got dicey, and you had to corral all the people who were part of it and became like the Night of the Living Dead diaspora, for lack of a better phrase, who'd gone out to conventions, had their own stories and things like that, and their own versions of what went on. Russ once told me, and I'm sorry, sounds like I'm blowing my own horn. He said to me, Joe Senna is as much a part of the Night of the Living Dead family that we should have him over for Thanksgiving dinner. And I said, if I wanted to be with a bunch of old people yelling at each other, I would go to my own family's house for Thanksgiving dinner. But that's kind of what it would. If Russ isn't replying, I'm going to get my ass kicked when this is over. But to corral everybody together and finally get everyone pointed in the same direction. And even so, it's sometimes, I wasn't even, the good guy in some of those conversations. But for all of us to have gotten past it, unite and turn Night of the Living Dead, which is one of the most respected American films of all time, not just a horror film. It's huge.
It is.
And I am open for Thanksgiving this year.
Hey, and who is responsible for the Romero sculpt?
That's Joe.
Okay, I don't have the sketch of that. He's not in the book. Romero, I had to do when I sketch in the sketchbook. That's usually like, you know, in bed with my wife going, all right, I got to do this stuff for tomorrow. George took a while. So I had to sketch the front and the back, and I'll put it up on Instagram later. And we had a discussion. We wanted to make him look like a director. Thanks, Russ. Let the ass kicking begin.
Thanksgiving will be fun this year, Joe.
Yep. So my thing was, you know, Dawn of the Dead is really, you know, the thing, and I've got a long story about that. We've only got 3 minutes, but I always pictured, for me, it was always George and the Lucky Scarf.
Yes.
You know, which was that era, but that's already been memorialized at the mall. So this is George, as we all knew him.
No, it's perfect.
And we need figures from his entire life. So
George through the years, nice sizes, all the iterations of George.
I'm down.
So,
We'll do whatever we're allowed to do. Happy to do it. You want a 12-inch George? You want a 18-inch George? We'll give you lots of Georges.
All the George we can get.
Yes to all the above.
Yes.
Interchangeable pieces, you know, with scarf, without scarf, you know.
A Mr. Romero head.
Now you're talking.
You can take his glasses off. You can take the beard off. You can put the scarf on. Like, come on.
GARF has heard you. I just saw that comment. The GARF.
Is that who should? Oh,
that's great.
Happy to be of service.
Uh-oh. All right. Well, one more time for the cheap seats. Let's walk everybody through. What do they have to do to get a hold of this amazing set of 13 figures that you guys got coming out, or not? Well, it'll be coming out in later this year. Yeah,
the pre-order starts on Wednesday, March 31st at 10 a.m. That's Eastern time. And it goes through, basically 11:59 p.m. Eastern time on April 4th, so Easter Sunday. So we've got 5 days to pre-order this, to get your order in. Once that time shuts off on Easter Sunday night into Monday, we turn the product off. You can't order it again. And then we will, get these into production, and they will probably start shipping out to customers probably mid-late September, I would say.
Okay.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. So that's the goal. Providing there's this import deal is slowing down by then. Who knows?
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on with that. But yeah, that's it. So basically just go to fright-rags.com. You got the link there, fright-rags.com, and you've got 5 days to get it. It'll be $23. And during the same time, we've got the Night of Living Dead lunchbox with that's coming out too.
Getting to talk about that. Yeah.
So
we make those also. But I can't take any credit, because all we do is take whatever Fright-Rags gives us and we put it on tin.
So I know we're running out of time, but I want to just show people who don't know what we're talking about. You can go to our Instagram and see the picture of it. This is not, I don't have a sample yet, but this is what we just did for Halloween that is shipping now. And so I want to give you guys the idea of what, these things look like. So this is Halloween. And it's, it's got the embossed, it's got the lip there. And then the thing that really sets us apart is the fact that it comes with a thermos.
Yes.
So, I mean, this is the Halloween one that we did in October that we're shipping now to customers. We still have a lot more to ship out, but this is the type of design and quality you're getting, but we're doing it with Night of Living Dead. And that will be out. And you can see what it looks like on our Instagram, but that'll be out the same pre-order time as the Nano Force. So you can order them together. They'll ship together later this year. And looking forward to it.
That's amazing. And hey, I apologize if you don't know this yet, but do you know when we'll have a final look at the Romero figure, the way it'll finally appear?
Well, I think we'll probably get some samples. And
here's what happens now is, now that we finally given the factory approval, it takes about 30 to 60 days to get the molds made. And it doesn't actually take 30 to 60 days to do the molds. It's just, how long it takes for the factory to get to that, because they've got, a whole bunch of projects. So what were we extrapolating, Ben? Because we were doing the math on this, like a month for the mold, another month or so for the actual production,
and then shipping's gonna take a while and stuff.
and then the Suez Canal.
We'll, soon after or during around the time of production, we'll get samples that we'll be able to take photos of and show people and customers. At least the people that are waiting, we can show them, hey, like this is what they look like. This is what's coming. Yeah, I mean, it just the way things happen, especially you've got Chinese New Year and other things happen. It was harder to get the actual pre-pro samples before we launched it, but that's just the way it was. But that's okay.
And my one concern is, how are they going to pull off those glasses? Are they actually going to do the glasses separately and glue them on, or are they going to do the typical?
I don't know, because I'm telling you right now, these things are amazing. I don't know. I don't even know how they.
I'm wondering. I'm almost afraid we're building up the expectation. No, go back. Building up to, because those glasses make the whole thing, and Bonnie, my factory person, she usually raises a red flag when they can't do something, and nobody said anything about the glasses. So
they look great so far. I mean, these things really came out awesome. So, it's funny. It's always great when I'm a fan of this stuff, obviously, but I mean, it's as a fan, I'm going, oh my God, I want this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the truth.
This is why we
sign of quality.
Why we got into these stupid businesses.
Yeah, exactly. Like
wonderful careers.
Like, it's not just another thing to put out. It's like, and everybody at our office is like the same way. I show them something, they're like, when can I get that? When we have ours that I can have? I'm like, so.
Well, I'm not just saying this because we're in front of a billion people, but this working relationship we've had with Ben for the last, it's going on a year and a half now, since before Toy Fair. Despite the fact we've known each other for a long time, this is the worst working relationship I've ever had. He's impossible. He's
horrible.
No, it's fun. This is fun. It's like it reminds me of why I did get into this stuff, and to be able to be among the fans and fellow fans. We all get to play with this stuff. If you think that pushing 60, once I get my box, I'm not going to sit there and I'm going to have like Johnny grabbing Barbara and stuff like that. Yeah. While Michael Myers is standing behind him.
Well, I mean, and right back at you, Joe, because that's the same way I feel too. I mean, us being able to kind of get on the phone and talk about this stuff and hammer out details, or, last minute phone calls about Haddonfield maps for the Nanoforce set, where we're drawing streets and we're trying to figure out where the houses would go. Like,
Ben is actually sitting there on the phone with me saying, and it's not watching the movie. He's like, and then Linda makes a left here, and then they make the right turn there. And then on the other hand, I've got Sean Decker, who lives in Los Angeles and knows all the actual street names. And he's saying, well, it doesn't work like that geographically.
But you got to do it for the movie, not for the actual. So we were like piecing together this diagram. At least with Night of the Living Dead, it was a cemetery. That was easy.
Thank God. At least we knew the guy that we could call.
For the Nanoforce. Yeah.
We were able to, call the guy directly, say, can we use the cemetery?
Right. Exactly. So no, it's been a blast just to be able to work on this stuff. And it's like, it is like a kid in a candy store. Like, look, when I got this lunchbox, I told Joe this, when I got this sample last August or whenever it was, no joke, I teared up a little when I opened this box. And I was like, I don't even know what to say about this right now. Like, it has nothing to do with, can we sell it, whatever, blah, blah. I'm like, I am so happy right now. Like, that was it. Like, that was all I needed in my life. Like, there was this thing. So it's just cool to then present it to other people and do other ones like Night of the Living Dead and the other ones we have in the works. So.
And God knows the other stuff we're talking about in the future too. It's
exciting.
There's a bunch of stuff we're hoping, and yes, the obvious questions people have been asking. We're hoping.
Yeah.
So are we. We didn't even have to do that.
We're trying. We're working it out.
I love what you guys do. My wife and my wallet hate you guys.
Right. Your wife can talk to my wife.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. We should probably keep them separate. That would probably turn out bad for us. No, I mean, guys, thank you so much for Joe, the figures and everything you've been doing over there, and Ben, seriously, you guys just hit a home run every time, everything you guys do. I wish I could get one of everything. I gotta be selective.
I understand. Totally.
Well, you know, there are these old Fright-Rags shirts that I found in the basement that, you know, if
Joe
you love
look
at that.
Joe used to buy those wholesale from us back in the day, so he still got some literal.
That wasn't. Thank you. I was not pitching. Buy them from me.
Hey Joe, I'll DM you for price, okay?
Yeah,
I'll
DM you for the price.
I've already got a $1 bid above.
You mean
Flossie.
the bid? Yes, the bid, not the price. Yes. So, the fact, this was before Ben went into the licensing world, but he did it for fun. We all did this for fun. Yeah. We all started these businesses because we enjoy it. The businesses have gotten a little jaded and a little complicated over the years. So Ben's actually given me a chance to play, the back pages of Famous Monsters again. It's great. Mm-hmm. And then what you guys have done with the show, Jesus,
that's awesome.
Having people like us on, a week after you had like real celebrities.
I was just gonna say, I mean, on that topic, I mean, we'd love to have you guys back on with when you guys do the next, if and when you guys do the next run, or just for any other, hopefully any other things that you got coming up. We'd love to have you on.
You guys, there was people asking for, other, obviously George figures from other zombie films. You guys have an audience. You guys have to do the work on the back end, but we are here ready to press that pay now button.
Well, that's great. I just wish George made 1,000 movies.
That's very true.
But he made quality over quantity, every single one, the reverence that not the fans have, but you guys for taking the care and the love to put out quality stuff that not only you want, but the fans want. And it memorializes them in different ways that, now we have figures and, you can go to bed wearing George Romero movies and, stuff like that. And, you can wear George Romero socks to work. It's stuff like that, has just kept him and all these films alive all of these years and for next generations. You guys are doing great work.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It means a lot to hear that from this group.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an honor. I mean, it truly is an honor for us to be able to do it. So it's definitely works both ways. So as long as people want it, we'll keep doing it because I know I want it.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, we'll keep everybody, tuned in and geared up for the pre-sale on March 31st. And I know I'm going to have my laptop pulled up that morning.
Yep.
I know we have a 5-day window. Right. Still, you just never know.
It's funny. People are still ready at that 10 a.m. They're still ready to hit that button.
They're not numbered. It's not like you have to be. I have to get 0001.
I love getting right in on that. I do the same thing on releases. I'm like, gotta get it. It's that time. Gotta get it.
But if you get it in at 10:01, you still have 6 days, 59 minutes, 55 seconds in case something happens and you decide you want to buy another one.
Or
you got to buy Christmas gifts. Get it in and get it done. Then you know what? Because I'm gonna have to go back to work. I'm gonna be like, sorry, I can't take this phone call. I have to order a George Romero figure from Fright-Rags, and they're like, what? I'm like, don't worry about it, and then I can go back to work. But it's this shirt I bought at work. I was like, oh my god, I got to get this shirt. And it's like you just carry that with you throughout the day. Like when you get that in. Mm-hmm. And I don't care how long it takes. It's like I know I got it in, and I get that email confirmation. I'm like, I'm good.
It's kind of a relief. Yeah. You can't move on without it.
Yep. It would ruin my day if I'm like, oh my god, it's 10:15. I forgot to pre-order those figures, and you have to run back to the computer. But and
it's a great MSRP on them. I mean, I'm afraid of how many I'm going to get. So,
well,
I don't want to talk about it.
To that point, it worked out. It worked out the way this did, direct to consumer, because not having to go through a distributor allows us to keep the price to a point where it's affordable, and we actually can make some money and do some more. So,
a set for every room.
Okay, I'm shutting up now. I'm going to shut up. 8:41. You said 8:30. We were going to leave.
Typically run over.
No, it's all good.
Guys. No, I appreciate Ben, Joe. thank you guys for coming on, and we can't
Thank you,
wait
guys.
to get our hands on these figures.
You guys are awesome. And thank you for carrying on the legacy, and you're doing God's work.
No, thank you. We love doing it. We're going to keep doing it. Like Ben said, as long as people want it and we can do it, we're going to keep doing it, and we'll do exactly what we can.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Well, we will talk to you soon, and we are waiting for the 31st, guys.
All right. Thank you
Thanks
so much.
again.
Thank you, guys.
Take
Sorry,
care.
Russ. I'm sorry.
All right, man.
All right.
I am psyched for those figures, and that George sculpt is just.
I was excited. Now I'm like really excited. Like I'm surprised. Like just seeing the one that Ben had, and I'm like, oh, that's gonna be it. And you're right. I'm afraid of how many I'm gonna buy, because I'm gonna want to have like one in the living room somewhere with all of his movies.
You're gonna need one or two to be out of the box.
You have to. You have to.
Of course, you got to keep one in the box.
Yep.
So, and even as is in the green, the form that it was in, I like it like that. So I can't wait to see what the final version looks like.
Yeah. No, I'd love to see them do that for anything they can do, because these are fun. It's not just it's not a mini poster. It's not something we see all the time. It's like, these are fun to have. And, I think like Joe said, it's like, here we are grown men to be playing with little army Night of the Living Dead action figures. And you got the big George, and, I love how big he is. And he was larger than life anyway. And
I was thinking too, outside of that one Dawn 2 set of figures and then the board game, this is one of the first where you're getting multiple figures in a bunch, And then in the board game, those aren't really intended to be played with. So this is, this is kind of a first in that realm too. Well, it's nice to get so many all at once.
Oh, I know. And like it was said earlier, you're buying a George Romero figure and getting 12 bonus figures. And that's really what it is. And I mean, but I mean, to see a Jack Russo figure and a Judy O'Day figure and a Keith Wayne, like all of those guys, it's just so neat to see them done in this manner. No one's really done that before for a property like Night. And even for Halloween, I wish I'd have gotten those Halloween ones, but I wasn't fast enough. But kudos to Ben and all these guys, because hopefully this is the start and they can just keep this ball rolling, because there definitely is a market out there for stuff like this. It's artwork. They're not toys, they're not little figures. They are pieces of art. Just the details they put in. Absolutely love them, and I'm glad we're getting a George figure again. Just I can't speak to that enough.
Absolutely. Well, before we get out of here, we'll mention our April slate of Knight Rider shows that we can't actually. Matt, since you cut off last time, I'll go ahead and let you run down the 3 shows real quick.
So starting Sunday, April 11th, we have Christine Romero and Warner Shook. Super excited to have those two together. That's just going to be a fun show. And then we have Tasso,
Randy Kovitz.
Oh, and Randy Kovitz. Yeah, Randy Kovitz.
I'm glad you said that, because I said that we did have to change the date. I believe I said the 10th earlier, and it is going to be on the 11th.
Yes, it is Sunday the 11th. So Saturday night, sit down, watch Knight Riders, enjoy it, and then start on Sunday the 11th. And hear from Chris and Warner and Randy. I think those trio is just going to be fun. They've known each other for 40 plus years, and to hear some of these stories from these guys is going to be great. And then on Saturday the 17th, we have Tasso and Tom, and our thoughts and prayers go out to Tom, who was in a little bit of an accident yesterday. And Tom, hope you're doing well. And thoughts and prayers for everybody there with Tasso and his family as well.
And we've also added Marty Schiff to that show.
And Marty Schiff.
So that we'll be almost have the whole gang of the Joe Bontempi's bikers together. Good time.
Yeah, I just, I'm so excited, to have these folks for Knight Riders, because, Knight Riders, like I said earlier, is often revered a lot, but you don't see a lot of stuff about Knight Riders. And I think getting some of these guys on record is going to be just fun. It's one of those films, like I didn't watch a lot years ago, but I have watched a lot more in the last couple of years, and you start to watch it different. And I hope, folks come to love it more after those shows. And then, April 24th, Donald Rubenstein and Ed Harris, King Billy himself, is just, how do you set that up other than saying anything but those two?
Right.
You know, friends for 40 years, and you know, Donald Rubenstein has done great music for George and throughout his career, and Ed Harris is just one of those where it would be a whole show just to list his IMDb credits and what he's done and who he's worked with. And when you go to think about, he got really started with George, Creepshow and Night Riders, and just the intensity he brought as Billy. And I is it April 24th yet? Is it April 11th and April 17th yet? Like, we've been talking about doing a Night Riders series for a while, and it just happens to work on the 40th anniversary of it.
And just, I mean, Chris Romero and Ed Harris, I mean, we've been kind of trying to track them down for 20 years now. So, and to have them exclusively for Night Riders, I mean, that's going to be amazing. So I think each one of these shows are arranged perfectly, and can't wait to dive into them. And we're actually we don't have a show next weekend, so we're kind of taking a week off in between now at the Night Riders celebrate Night Riders Forever celebrate Camelot Forever celebration. And but we're psyched. Actually, I don't know, we'll talk about it. We've got a trip next weekend. Matt and I are and some others are. We're going to the Friday the 13th Part 6 camp. We'll put it out there.
It's a long deserved vacation. We were trying to do this months ago, and we decided to do something a little different and all gather together and hang out at the camp, and hopefully no one jumps out of the lake and tries to kill us in our sleep. And you know, maybe we'll try to figure out how to actually play that card game and figure out what cabin Jason is in. You know, I got to figure that out.
Good idea.
Try not to bloody up the camp or anything, but that's going to be fun. And I'm stoked. Get to see you again. For the first time since last summer and everything, and just hang out. So we're going to take a nice week off next week, guys. Hope you guys, rest up and watch Night Riders a few times. I know we will. And I know Eric and I, when we're together, we're going to be planning pretty hard on how to make these shows some of the best that we've ever done, and really bring you guys some really good Night Riders content. Yeah.
Maybe we can upload a couple of clips from the camp over the weekend.
We're going to have fun.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, and don't forget to go to the website georgearomerofoundation.org and sign up for the newsletter. Again, it's going to drop next week, so go to the website and check it out. And with it being a revamped website, we're adding more content. There's going to be more stuff on the website as the year progresses, so please don't discount the website. And same thing with the Patreon. We got a lot of stuff in the chamber for the Patreon, and it's just putting it all together and getting it out there for you guys. Again, even a $3 donation helps the GARF Foundation out tremendously to continue to expand its vision and meet its goals of cementing George's legacy for generations and helping independent film. So please sign up even at the $3 level and above, and we will give you everything you need on Patreon as a subscriber.
Once again, I want to thank Ben Scrivens, Fright-Rags, and Joe Senna for joining us tonight discussing these figures. Get ready for your pre-sale on March 31st. Until next time, I'm Eric.
And I'm Matt.
We'll see you next time for our Camelot Forever celebration in April.
See you guys.